So we got a lot to unpack about this episode today because we got the proper introduction for the two heroes that have been wandering around Makoto's world that we didn't get to meet at all in the last season, but now we're gaining a little bit more familiarity with them. And really, it starts off with just showing how double standard the goddess is when it comes to look. I mean, both for Hikobi Atanashu and Togome Iwi, they both get outrageous powers from this goddess. I mean, Makoto, he gets cursed, but is able to understand languages. But these two, they get charisma, physical abilities, magic, magical eyes to charm people. Like, they are just getting the whole works. Even one gets their physical form changed just because he asked for it. Like, Makoto, he just, he looked like a plain normal guy, but the goddess just cursed him like that. Also, it seems like her power is also diminishing greatly from hero to hero to hero, because when we get to see Hikobi interacting with the gods, she doesn't look as voluptuous as she did when Makoto met her. She looks a little more thin, a little bit younger, and not as mature as we saw in her first season. And that continues on to when she summons Tamaku. I mean, she doesn't even meet him in her throne room. It looks like she's just meeting him above his own world. So it looks like her power is severely diminishing because when she meets up with Tokame, she's in a childlike form and asking for his help. How much power she's had to exert to bring heroes from our world to hers, and then giving them divine power in order to fight off the demons' hordes. So by the time that we meet up with her again, I suspect she's going to look vastly different than what we saw with her originally. Now, maybe I'm just overplaying this and gods can just change their forms to people, but I would really like it if that was just how they're showing that she's used a lot of her power to bring these heroes to her world, using a lot of power to give them abilities and changing their forms that has taken a mighty toll on her. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out later on, but we probably aren't going to get an answer to that until way later in the series. Just an interesting idea I had when I was watching the series, just like how much power she's really exerting here, and what is the price she's paying to bring these heroes here, even for her own vanity to have pretty heroes. So I'm just curious about that, because both these people that she brought over is like a top student of their class and life is super easy for them, or is a kid model, so she's definitely going for a high caliber here. Now, I will say the heroes' personalities are a bit interesting. Hikobi, her personality is more snobbish, I guess you could say. I mean, what do you expect from a kid who never had to actually try hard things in life? Like, from what we get from her intro, she's just found everything easy. She never really had to struggle. If she just put her mind to it just slightly, she succeeded 100%. So in her eyes, life was just completely boring. She couldn't connect with anybody back on Earth. So when the gods came calling, although she rejected it at first, she eventually did accept the gods' invitation when she heard of the possibilities of a more exciting future than her own previous world. Versus when it came to Togome, he was just looking for a way to escape his reality. He was being bullied, he didn't stand up for himself, he had kind of a weaker personality. I guess that you could say I kind of felt for the man because I kind of was kind of the same way in high school, so I can kind of mirror that in my own life. So I definitely understand where the guy's coming from there, and that really shows as we move into the actual nations that these two kids go to. But I'm just mentioning that right now because it really shows you the difference between the heroes that she's picked. She picked one that was very self-confident and a go-getter, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be much that's going to stand in her way, so she's probably going to have an easier time in the world. Versus when it comes to Tokome, he's going to be more self-conscious, more insular, more concerned, more worried. And you can say Makoto actually kind of balances out these two personalities quite nicely. He is a bit of a go-getter, but he's also a little bit of a recluse. So it's kind of nice to see that we're having two extremes for the actual heroes that are being accepted by the wider populace just because of their looks and abilities that the gods gave them, versus Makoto, who's more in the center of these two volatile personalities. Now, Hikobi, for sure we know, knows Makoto, so it's going to be interesting how she reacts to seeing him. Are they going to have good chemistry, bad chemistry? What's going to be like? I'm really interested to see how their relationship takes form in the coming episodes of the series. Mainly because when we see Hikobi and she's going around forming her party, she's actually communicating with everybody, getting them on board, kind of similar to what Makoto did, but he didn't really have a choice in the people he had for followers. They kind of just found him or he found them. Whereas this, she actually has a grand selection of people that she picks from. She picks a bodyguard that doesn't really want to train a kid, but she's able to coerce her to becoming her master and train her in the way of the sword. And she creates quite a good party. But as I said, she never really faced much of a challenge in anything, so she found the heroine pretty easily going around slaying monsters all over the place. Although something interesting about the monster slaying is that when one of them talks to her, she just thought it was just a normal mindless monster. She didn't expect to actually speak to her. So it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to get more ethics played into slaying the demi-humans, and are these demons not actually demons, but are they more like the people that Makoto is taking care of? So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not quite sure yet if actual monsters or just more complex creatures that are sick and tired of being neglected. So I'm curious to see how that eventually plays out throughout the rest of the series with her. But this isn't her major setback. No, her major setback is when she comes across the Black Disaster, or Mio before she met Makoto. And they're able to do some damage to her. They break a leg or two, but they absolutely get wiped out. Her entire party, they just get crushed by the Black Disaster. Now, for some reason, Mio didn't eat them. I mean, I guess you could maybe argue that they're very low substance. They have nothing really of value to her. They did injure her somewhat, so maybe she fled from that. But she likes pain, at least she did in her old form. So I'm kind of curious to learn why she fled from them. Although, knowing Mio, she probably is going to just say, I don't remember anything before meeting Makoto, so I was just hungry the whole time. So maybe that's what's going to happen. I'm hoping that we get a little bit more insight that, oh, you're just pests. I didn't really see a point in eating you. You're just annoying. So I just went away. So I'm really looking forward to see how that dynamic plays out with Makoto and Mio. If she's going to come after Mio. Because she did say in the episode that she will win against the Black Disaster and next time they meet. Now, I'd like to see that because that's going to be quite impressive. She can actually beat her, but I have to actually wait and see how that all comes about. Now, with that said, we move over to Togome, and the way he forms his party is very different. It's very much so reminiscent on how you as a character in a video game would go around just getting people to join you kind of without their consent almost. I mean, you talk to them, charm them, and then they'll come along with you. Now, why am I making this sound more devious? Because it kind of is. Because he has this magical eye that just charms people. For example, when he first arrives in the Gregorian Empire and is met by Princess Lily, she introduces him to one of their head knights, and he immediately rushes up to her because he's fascinated to see a female knight. I mean, he's never seen one before, so of course he's kind of like a kid in a candy store. He just rushes up to her, and she thinks this is very rude, and she tells him off about it, and he apologizes, but as he's apologizing, his eye just automatically kicks in and charms her, and now she's almost madly in love with him. Now, she doesn't actually care for him, it's just that the spell that she's under thinks that she does. And this is kind of repeated across all the females that he meets that's going to join his party eventually, and it's not really intentional, it's just something that automatically is happening. He doesn't have full control. So can you say he's necessarily an evil character? Not necessarily, because the gods didn't really give him a good turn on, turn off switch. But still, it is forcing people kind of against their will to join you, at least fall in love with you. So if there's any kind of romantic relationship that happens between him and those hangs that are going to be joining him, it's morally questionable at best. Now, with that said, he gets an alchemist who's really good at golems. He also gets a dragon tamer that's going to join in on his adventures. So he has a nice little powerful party that's going to join with him on his quest. Now the princess, she kind of sees what's going on here, so she meets with their mage, and he's supposed to create countermeasures to prevent her from suffering the same effects. But at the same time, she goes ahead and for a kiss and sleeps with him for some reason. Now, could that be because she realizes that the way to not get affected by the evil eye is just to go and embrace him and care for him and love him without any concern, and that will protect you from his, subconscious taking control of your mind? I don't know. I'm curious to see how that eventually plays out through the rest of the season. Now, like I said, none of the companions he has cares for him, and neither does she. She just is using him to get rid of the demons. Although you can say that about the heroes in the other kingdom with Higgiby, but at least you can kind of get a sense that they do care for her. Versus here, he has got false friends, but still no real friends. Like, it's interesting to see how the dynamics still work. Like, although you're in a fantasy world, although you have these powers, you are still the person that you were before. If you don't put the work in to actually create a better personality, create a better character, you're still going to end up with the same rotten results. Although you have a nice veneer, people around you, you are still massively alone because no one actually really cares about them. If you take away that magical spell, I really doubt any of the characters are going to actually care for them as deeply as they are now. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll wake up from the haze and be like, yeah, no, we actually do like you, we do care for you. But it is interesting to see how this is going to be playing out through the rest of this anime. Now, a word on the civilizations that we're seeing is very starkly different between Higgiby's entrance into the world versus Togome. Higgiby, she entered in front of a ton of people cheering and welcoming her. Versus Tokome, he appears in a lone room with just the princess and a knight. No one else really sees him. If you wanted to kill him right there and then, no one would even know that you had a hero. Versus Hikami, she entered with a lot of fanfare. So I'm kind of curious to see how both nations are going to portray the heroes. Because it seems like on one hand, one's going to be portraying him like a poster child, and the other one is maybe more of like a god figure going forth and fighting the demons, but no one actually knows. So I'm going to enjoy seeing how they portray that in the rest of the anime, if I'm right or if I'm just completely off my rocker here. I look forward to see what they have in store for us. I find it very interesting how they all interpret the gods as being absent, of her not being around, of her just giving up on her people. Like, you've been blessed by the gods that have incredible good looks, she cares for you more than any of the demi-humans, she focuses strictly on you, but for some reason you think that she no longer cares for you. So does that just mean that she exerted all her attention just on you and fixing all your minor problems? And now that she's decreased her attention on you by maybe 10 or 20%, that you no longer think that she's caring or paying attention to you? So I'm really curious to see why they think that way. Now, you guys let me know, what was your favorite part about this episode? What are you expecting to see in the series ahead? I'm really looking forward to hear you guys' comments down below. Leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.